Jason, do you want to? Oh, you already pressed the record button. Excellent. We are on top of things. So it's nice to see all of your faces and screen names and all the people that I recognize from the Deis community channel arrive here for the March 2017 community meeting. I'm going to take a guess that this week has been hectic for most of you on this call, having S3 sort of outages this week. Yes, explosions. I do know Maxime, I think, was the winner on reporting it first in the Deis community, the Deis community channel. And then Fisher quickly replied that we also were seeing S3 was down. And so we definitely did find out the world's dependencies on S3. The way that I found out was Zoom meetings were harder to join, and Slack uploads weren't happening, and then worst of all, iTunes streaming cut out. So I'm not sure how all of you did this week in weathering that storm, but I'd love to, if you have some interesting stories to relay, drop something in chat so we can, at the end of the meeting, we can loop around to you and kind of hear how you dealt with those things, whether you're using Kubernetes or Deis workflow or not. And I'd love to give you the floor for a couple minutes and see what you did to navigate that. So as for the formal agenda, we actually have a new team member at Deis working on workflow. So we'll do a little intro on her, and we will talk about the workflow release that's scheduled to come out this week. Although our testing that relied on S3, so Docker Hub key, Quay, however you want to call it, was down, so had some hindrances there. I think Matt Boersma will go into a little bit more on what's going out with this release and what to look forward to in the future, as well. We have some interesting upstream adoption of features into workflow that you should all look forward to. So with that, actually, I will kick it over to Chris Nova to give an introduction on herself. She is the new Deis team member working on workflow, and she'll relay some of the things she's working on too. So Chris, take it away.
Sure. Hey everyone, it's nice to meet you. I see a lot of familiar faces, and I see some people I don't know. So nice to meet everyone, and I would love to chat with you guys offline in the future to get to know how you guys are using workflow and how I could hopefully make that better for you and make your lives easier, of course. So one of the big things that I've been working on for the past couple of weeks is bring your own ingress, which is a feature that we're implementing into workflow, which the high-level explanation of that is basically we were going to create a cluster without a router, and we would be using Kubernetes native ingress to route traffic to and from a workflow cluster. So I've got some PRs out for that. I don't know if I pushed up my documentation changes on it yesterday, but it's in working order, so if anybody wants to check it out and play with it and give me feedback, that would be great. And just a high level on sort of what's going on in that, if you guys are interested, and how things have changed with the new flag. So it doesn't break anything today, and the only way you can use it is if you opt in. And how you opt in would be setting flipping a bool at install time. So when you install workflow, you would just append your traditional workflow command with a bool, and now we are introducing a hard requirement on DNS. So as workflow stands today, you don't actually have to have a host name that's publicly resolvable in order to deploy a cluster. But now, because of ingress and the way it works, we're going to have that hard requirement. So that'll be a new change. But the good news is those are the only two things that'll be different. Everything else should work relatively the same, and you shouldn't really notice any differences other than the need for you to deliver an ingress controller to manage all of the new ingresses that are put into your Kubernetes cluster. It's still going to be using the traditional app name.hostname convention for all newly created apps, and every newly created app will get an ingress in their namespace that will be managed by the ingress controller on the kube system level. Looks like we have a question. The NIP IO thing won't be needed with custom ingress because the only way to get custom ingress to work is to have a publicly resolvable host name. Does that help, Alex? Cool.
Can you turn your volume up because I didn't shut mine off? So
Oh yeah.
if people are talking, we won't hear them.
Okay. Yeah, you're very welcome. So I'm looking at my notes here. So basically how it works under the hood for those of us interested in how the actual microservice is going to be changing is that bool that we flip at runtime or at install time when we install the chart makes its way through the chart into the actual container as an environmental variable. On Bootstrap of the controller service, we respect the environmental variable, and then we've gone through the scheduler and put in some new logic that checks for it and then will behave differently. So the way we create an ingress is lazy, meaning we don't create it until we're actually deploying an application with it. And it does do it automatically. I did make some assumptions when I hard-coded in the ingress format that I think are going to work well for everyone. But again, I'm really interested to see who's going to be using this thing and what their use cases are, and would like to talk more about the assumptions I made and if you guys think that's a good idea or could be better, or any input at all. Does anybody else have any other major questions? Awesome. I'm going to take that as a no. And again, if this sounds interesting or something you want to learn more about, or if you have any feedback whatsoever, please reach out to me in Slack. I would love to hear from you and talk more about what you guys plan on doing with this. And on that note, I will pass it off to Borisma.
Cool. Thanks. All right, we're doing this hokey thing. We're all in the same room and trying not to cause feedback, so I think we've got it now. Yeah, and another thing to remember about all the router ingress stuff is that this is not on by default. If you're happy with your working Nginx-based router config the way it's always been, nothing will change. You have to turn this on. It's an experimental feature. So it shouldn't be disruptive, but if it's something you need, you know you need it, and we will soon be working well with whatever ingress you want to bring to the table. Right, so as Seth mentioned, and actually Chris also didn't mention one of the first things she did when she started here was to rewrite our install docs to use COPS, a much more capable tool than QBup for Amazon provisioning. So if you go install a fresh cluster workflow installation on AWS, you'll be following COPS now, which is kind of cool. So as Seth mentioned, we really got thrown a curveball by the S3 outage. It was kind of surprising to all of us how deep that rabbit hole went and how nothing really worked. But we're past that now. We have a couple outstanding issues that we are still testing. So unfortunately, the release is not ready as of yet. There's a fighting chance we'll have it out tomorrow, but at worst, it will be Monday because we're really focused just on 2 issues. But hopefully it'll be out in the next couple days, and we'll let you know in the community channel. But we do know roughly what's going to be in it. It's mostly a bug fix release. There's a few small features. Let me go over the highlights real quick. You can use a docker_build_args environment variable now to change the behavior when you're pushing a Docker file app if you need to override the default Docker build arguments. Grafana was reconfigured, so if you have Grafana plugins you want to install, that is possible now, whereas with the previous configuration that wasn't really possible. FluentD supports the reload connections option, which should make it more robust in a few situations we've seen. The controller will now properly handle, the whole system will handle correctly if you, for some reason, have an application and you start out and it's a proc file based application, and then at some point you commit to using Docker files and you're still pushing to the same Deis endpoint. That's kind of a weird edge case, as you can imagine, but it used to not update the services correctly so things wouldn't be routed. That's all fixed now, so you can basically switch back and forth between Docker file, proc file, Deis pull as you wish, and will generally do the right thing. Postgres and registry both had some significant fixes for S3 connectivity in this weird edge case. Workflow can be installed in any namespace you want, not just Deis. We thought that was working. We found out it was actually still hard-coded in a couple places, so that's all fixed. And then there's just a bunch of updates, security, and bug fixes across the board. We're on the latest version of FluentD because there's a chance it fixes a memory leak we were seeing. We had to upgrade Postgres, Nginx, all the Heroku build packs. That also fixes a couple of problems we ran into. And then just a bunch of the Python libraries and controller. So basically it's a big bug fix release, but there's some pretty significant ones in there. As Chris mentioned, some of the other ongoing work is trying to pay off essentially what is tech debt and get the ingress working. That will probably be in the next release, it looks like. Other than that, yeah, that's about it. We're just trying to finish the testing on this release and make it available to everybody, hopefully tomorrow. Let me look at chat really quick, sorry. Is there any chance for builder issues to be fixed? I bet I know which one that is. Let me click on it. Yeah, the crypto panic, we are still kind of clueless about that one. It looks like it's deep in Go crypto. We've essentially been trying hard to chase the head of Go crypto because they did fix a whole bunch of bugs and rearrange all the code in the place where this is happening. So far, it doesn't seem like it's fixed it. We know it's a big issue for some people. We don't really have a handle on it yet. So if anyone has an idea what's going on with that stack trace or wants to provide us some more information, we would love to get it fixed. It's probably not going to happen for this release. If we figure out what's going on, we will do a patch release for workflow as soon as we do. Running prod cluster with latest FluentD container, haven't seen, that's good news, yeah. Okay, so that's really all we have on the agenda, but at this point, we'd like to open the floor up for anybody to have questions or more chat in the chat channel about bugs that you need fixed or whatever. The floor is yours.
I'm also interested in how workflow clusters in the wild weathered the S3 storm.
I'm sure it was not good because as we started realizing most of the Heroku build packs actually have their assets on S3. We certainly encourage people to use off-cluster storage that might be S3, so I imagine it wasn't pretty.
All right, if no one's piping up, feel free to drop some paragraph or a couple sentences in the Deis community Slack channel. And we had, was that before or after the outage, Alex, that you moved your buckets from S3 to Google? Before. Lucky you. Yes, very, very lucky endeavor. So anyway, we are going to have the same workflow community meeting next month, April 6th, same time, same channel. And Jason Hansen will post a recording of this March community meeting to the community channel soon, so you can, if you have friends that want to catch up on what's up next for workflow, we'll usually get that posted in like what, 2 minutes after this meeting, Jason? Yes. Probably in an hour or two is my best bet. So anyway, it's nice to see all your faces again, engage in some banter, and hopefully this was a useful time for you to catch up on what's new and what's happening next. So see you all in April.
Thanks, everybody.